Hello, guys, and everyone else, of course. Today we'll talk a little bit about an interesting topic, which is basically a part of like Russian propaganda and things like that. That's maybe out there. Maybe you've stumbled on that because for me lately, when I was like looking, and maybe it's been a little while, but I've heard it here and there, and I also talked to some people which actually believe that. And we're talking about like Ukraine stealing military aid from NATO and like selling it on black markets and stuff like that. And this is a lot of times explained as a reasoning for some countries not willing to send their military aid, or the reasoning in general that's why you don't or should not send military aid to Ukraine. And I'm just here to tell you, from my point of view and my experience, why this is basically impossible. This is bullshit, and I'll try to explain the best that I can why it's actually nearly impossible to happen for Ukraine actually to sell it on the black market itself. It just sounds cosmically stupid. Imagine a country giving a military aid to other country in terms of like NATO weaponry. Of course, it's maybe a little bit outdated or something, but it's something that other militaries and armies using in their active service. So it's like one of the most, let's say, not secret, but really guarded technologies, because everyone wants to be the best in terms of like their weaponry or whatever still in this age, because as you can see, and Ukraine is an example, you have to have a really strong military forces, because anyone can end up in the situation that we are in. And if you don't have military forces, the brutal force to oppose, you'll be in a pretty bad situation. So let's talk why it's nearly impossible for military aid from NATO or NATO countries to end up either, I don't know, on a black market or to be stolen and sold or whatever. The first reason for that is a lot of times when we receive military aid from abroad, we receive not only the aid, but people who actually control how this military aid is delivered and when and how it is used, up to the actual frontline and engagement. And this is also done for multiple reasons. One is, of course, to make sure that Russians don't get hands on like military aid or actually NATO weaponry. And the second one is, of course, to gather the information, how well actually it performs in the field. Because a lot of times you may think that they developed this weaponry, they have this system, but there have been not too many conflicts they actually used it. It has like characteristics and specifics that they think are strong, maybe they're actually not, and they want all this information to be gathered. They don't want this aid to get into the hands of the Russian in the first place, of course, because they can like adopt the technology, understand how it works. And secondary, of course, they want to gather the data and understand how well actually this weaponry or whatever is performing, how this shell works, how this artillery works, how this gun works. Are they good, are they bad, like in terms of engagement? Because you may have a lot of data from like training and maneuvers and stuff, but when it comes to real engagement and real warfare, things change a lot, and in a lot of places where you can think that this will like be performing really well, but in fact it's just garbage. Or on the other hand, everyone thinks that's not that very good, but in modern warfare it just like works perfectly fine and great. So this is the foremost just like reasoning for it to be nearly impossible by itself. It's like controlled on multiple levels. All the data is gathered. All the partners who give us help, like from NATO and other countries, they actually monitor this help because they want to understand how well it actually performs and as well they don't want this technology to get into the hands of Russians. Maybe a lot of times you've seen like articles in Russian like posting like, hey, we have all this like NATO weaponry and stuff, and a lot of times you can see just like NLAVs or RPG shots actually fired, so they have just a tube, a useless tube. They can't do without it. It's not a weaponry. It's someone just shot Russian tank and just dropped the tube on a position, and then Russian gathered it up and say like, hey, we have all this like blah 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 and all this kind of stuff. So, and of course this is the part of Russian propaganda machine to shy away or force away countries and people helping Ukraine with military aid, and this is just purely impossible. And then if we think about like selling out on the black market or just selling it like in Ukraine or whatever, it's just nearly impossible because we don't yet like have the possibility even to do it. And imagine doing it in a country which is in war. Yes, Ukraine have corruption problems as such and things like that, but you know, we're not dumb. We're not like some bunch of idiots or crazy dudes. Just in terms of even the worst of our dudes and guys in charge understand the possibilities of such actions. It's something even they would consider like a really high risk, low reward possibility. And where can you sell it? Like, who would have buy it? Like on the black market? Will you say it to, I don't know, Iran, Iraq? How this can happen? We don't have like basically our seas are blocked. A lot of mainland also blocked by the front line, so it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't fit anything, and it doesn't serve anything. So if you hear things like that Ukraine is selling military aid, Ukraine is like misusing military help, it's like, it's a bullcrap. It's Russian propaganda in a nutshell, so to say, because it's just even crazy to think about it. If you just think about it on the first levels, that like all this help is extremely controlled in terms of how we receive it and where it is used, and all the data is like sent back immediately on request. And sometimes it even comes to the point where like actual, I don't know if they're generals or whatever, they are actually military officers from the NATO country or other country giving us a weaponry. They come to the front lines itself to see how it's used and how it's working. So it's just a bunch of bullcrap. Don't get fooled by it, and just forget about it and get around it, because it's just a bunch of bullcrap. Ukraine can't sell or black market or whatever NATO help, and there is no, at least I haven't found a single legit evidence of this happening. And also I know how this happens from inside, basically seeing and understanding the processes at least a little bit, and also having my hands on some of this military aid too. I can assure you that it's impossible, it's a bullcrap, and it's just a Russian propaganda. Of course, it's something that they will try to do and will probably try to do in the future, and once again, because they don't want us to receive this weaponry, because it helps us a lot, and we're doing great and we're using it. And for the countries providing it, it's also a really good learning opportunity to understand how well their weaponry fits in a modern warfare and how well it's actually working. So there is not much more I can say on the subject, and just don't get fooled by Russian propaganda. It's like really stupid. The first thing you need to think about is like, how is it possible? Doesn't sound like really like outrageous and stupid? If yes, like, I'll give you 80 to 90% straight on that it's a Russian propaganda and just a bullcrap. So I hope you learned something this day, and maybe this helps you in the future, or you just get a bunch of interesting information.